The human diplomatic starship Endeavour floated quietly in orbit above Varelli's prime, its silver hull shining against the backdrop of a deep blue planet. Inside, Captain Elias Ward stood in the main briefing room, adjusting the cuffs of his uniform. Years of interstellar negotiations had taught him that first impressions could decide the fate of entire treaties. Today was one of those days. The Varelian Council had invited humans to sign a trade and defense agreement, the first in history, between their species. It was a chance to secure peace and mutual growth. But Varelians were known for their delicate customs. One wrong gesture, one misplaced word, and talks could collapse before they began. As Elias prepared to disembark, the ship's communication panel lit up with an incoming message from the Council. A smooth, melodic voice filled the air. Captain Ward, as is our custom for honored guests, we have assigned you an attunement companion. She will guide you, protect you, and ensure your mind is at ease before tomorrow's negotiations. Elias frowned slightly. An attunement companion? His second-in-command, Commander Hale, smirked. Sounds like a babysitter, sir. It sounds like something I don't have time for, Elias replied, though a small part of him was curious. Varelians didn't give away resources without purpose. The docking bay door opened with a soft hiss, and she stepped aboard. She was a young, beautiful alien woman, her skin a rich teal blue that seemed to shift slightly in the light. Her eyes were deep silver, calm yet sharp. She had a soft, natural beauty, not exaggerated, but gentle and sincere. Her long hair, dark as midnight, flowed smoothly over her shoulders. She wore light ceremonial attire in silver and white, with a crest over her left shoulder marking her as part of the Companions Guild. She bowed slightly. Captain Ward, I am Lyra. I will be your companion until the summit is over. Elias nodded politely. I appreciate the help. I understand your role is to guide me? Yes, she said, her voice carrying a subtle musical tone. But more than that, I will remain with you, even during your rest periods, until the talks are complete. It is the Varelian way. We stay the night. There was a faint smile on her lips when she said it, though her expression remained formal. Commander Hale raised an eyebrow but wisely kept silent. Elias cleared his throat. That's very dedicated. It is necessary, Lyra replied simply. Your mind must be calm and aligned before you speak for your people. If you are unbalanced, the Council will sense it. Elias gestured for her to follow as they walked through the corridors of the Endeavour. She moved with quiet grace, studying every detail around her. Her gaze lingered on the human crew, their uniforms, their mannerisms, as if memorizing them. As they entered the shuttle to descend, to Varelli's prime, Lyra spoke again. The city station below is ancient. Many walk its halls, but not all are friends to peace. You must follow my lead in public spaces. You think someone might interfere? Elias asked. She didn't answer directly. In my people's history, there is a saying, where there is light, there are always shadows. The shuttle touched down inside the station's arrival bay. The air was warmer here, carrying the scent of metallic stone and faint spices. The architecture was smooth and flowing, with tall crystal-like pillars arching above the main walkways. Holographic banners in both Varelian and Standard Galactic displayed symbols of unity. Lyra walked slightly ahead, guiding Elias toward the Council's guest quarters. Along the way, she pointed out subtle gestures he should remember. How to lower his chin when addressed by a senior counselor. How to keep his hands visible during certain greetings. Elias noticed something else. She often glanced over her shoulder, scanning the crowd. Her expression remained calm, but her eyes were alert. They arrived at the guest suite, a wide, high-ceilinged room with an open view of the city's glowing skyline. From here, Elias could see transport ships moving like fireflies between towers. The furniture was arranged in a circle, a sign of equality in Varelian design. Lyra moved toward the central table, placing a small device on it. A faint hum filled the air. "Privacy field," she explained. "Conversations here cannot be overheard." Elias took a seat. "You seem concerned. Is there something I should know?" She looked at him steadily. "Only this. You were chosen for these talks because you are skilled at reading truth from lies. But here the game is played differently. There are those who wish for the talks to fail. They will watch you. They may test you." Before Elias could reply, a sharp tone sounded from his personal communicator. He tapped it open, and the display showed a coded text message. No sender ID. It read, "The talks are compromised. Trust only the companion." Elias's eyes narrowed. "When did this arrive?" "Just now," Lyra said, leaning closer to read it. Her voice was calm, but her eyes held a sudden intensity. "Then it begins." Elias stared at her. "Do you know who sent this?" "No," she said. "But the fact that it reached you means the sender has access to the station's secure channels. That is troubling." He sat back in his chair, processing the situation. First, he had been assigned an alien guide who insisted on staying close at all times. Now, an anonymous warning told him to trust only her. This was no longer just about cultural guidance. It was a security matter. Lyra folded her hands. "You do not have to trust me yet, Captain, but you must allow me to do my duty. If you wish to see your people's flag alongside ours tomorrow, then tonight. I stay." Her voice was steady, but there was something unspoken in her tone. A quiet determination that told Elias she was not here for ceremony alone. Elias met her gaze. "Then tonight," he said slowly, "we prepare for whatever's coming." Outside the suite's wide window, the city of Vareli's Prime glittered. In the darkness, unaware that the path to peace had just taken a dangerous turn. The morning light in Vareli's Prime was unlike anything Elias had seen before. The city's high towers caught the rising sun and scattered the light through crystal spires, painting the streets in soft blues and golds. From the balcony of the guest suite, he could see airships gliding silently between the buildings like silver fish. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes scanning the horizon. "We will visit the council hall this afternoon," she said, her voice calm but watchful. "Before that, I will take you through the public district so you can learn the pathways." Elias nodded, though his thoughts were still on the message from last night. The talks are compromised. Trust only the companion. He didn't know who had sent it, but it made him pay more attention to every detail, and it made him watch Lyra more closely. She guided him through the bustling streets. The Varelian marketplace was a wide, circular plaza filled with stalls and moving platforms. Merchants displayed shimmering fabrics that seemed to ripple without wind, bowls of fruit that floated just above their trays, and crystal tools that could cut through steel with a single touch. The air was filled with the low hum of trade and conversation. As they walked, Lyra began explaining things in a way that sounded casual but was clearly important. "In Varelian culture," she said, "you must never show the soles of your boots in the presence of elders. It is seen as a sign of defiance, and if someone offers you a sphere of green water, you must accept it, even if you do not drink. Refusal means you reject their welcome." Elias took mental notes. "And the phrase, 'staying the night,' that's still on my mind." Lyra glanced at him, a faint smile playing on her lips. "It means more than it sounds. It is a promise to stay until danger passes. In our history, companions would remain awake through the night to guard their partners from threats. So when you say it, Elias began. She finished for him. I mean, I will not leave you until you are safe, whether that is one night or many. Her tone was firm, but before Elias could reply, she slowed her pace and looked over her shoulder. Elias followed her gaze and spotted two figures at the edge of the crowd. They were dressed in common traders' robes, but their movements were too precise. They were following at a steady distance, never letting the crowd block their view of him. Friends of yours? Elias asked quietly. Not mine, she replied, but they are watching you. Lyra turned into a narrow side street lined with glowing wall panels. The air here was quieter, the noise of the market fading behind them. She walked faster now, guiding Elias through twists and sharp turns until they emerged into another open space. The two figures were gone. Elias stopped. You think they're the ones trying to stop the talks? They are scouts, Lyra said. If they are here, the ones they work for are close. She led him to a high terrace that overlooked the plaza. From here, Elias could see more than before. Merchants bartering, children playing near the fountains, and those same two figures reappearing far below, scanning the crowd. They are not Virelian, Lyra said softly. Look at the way they move. Too direct, too confident. My people move with the flow. These are outsiders. Elias studied them, but before he could respond, a sudden roar shook the ground. The blast came from the far end of the market, a fireball rising above the rooftops. Shouts filled the air as people scattered. The ground trembled underfoot, and fragments of light debris rained down. Elias reached for his communicator. Endeavor, this is Ward. Down! Lyra's voice cut through his words. She grabbed his shoulder and pulled him to the ground just as a shock wave passed over them. Heat washed over the terrace, and the smell of scorched metal filled the air. When the noise faded, Elias looked around. The crowd below was in chaos, fleeing in all directions. Security drones zipped overhead, their sirens echoing between the towers. That blast was close, Elias said, pushing himself up. Not close enough to kill, Lyra replied. Her silver eyes were sharp. It was meant to distract, Elias understood immediately. While everyone's looking at the fire, someone moves unseen elsewhere, Lyra finished. They hurried back into the market's edge, now a storm of confusion. Merchants were shouting, guards were pushing people toward safe zones, and the two mysterious figures were gone. Elias's communicator buzzed with multiple calls from Endeavor, but Lyra pressed his hand down. Not here, she said. Every open channel can be intercepted. We must speak in a shielded place. They made their way to a small tea house with sliding crystal doors. Inside, the air was cool and faintly sweet. Lyra closed the door behind them and activated a small, round device. A soft shimmer appeared in the air. Another privacy field. Elias leaned forward. If this was a diversion, what did they take? Possibly. Nothing physical, Lyra said. Sometimes chaos is used to mark a target, test defenses, or signal an ally. Today it may have been to see how you react. Elias frowned. So I'm the test. She nodded. And now they know you are calm. Under pressure. That's not exactly good news, Elias muttered. It means they'll try something bigger. Lyra poured 2 cups of clear, fragrant tea and set one before him. You adapt quickly. That is a human trait my people respect. But adaptability alone will not protect you here. Elias took the cup but didn't drink yet. Then what will? Awareness, she said, and trust, even if you do not like it. He studied her for a moment. The message from last night came back to him. Trust only the companion. He still didn't know who had sent it or why, but so far, Lyra had been right about every danger they'd faced. Outside, distant sirens faded. The tea house was quiet again, but Elias knew the peace was temporary. Lyra broke the silence. The summit is tomorrow. That means tonight. I stay. There it was again, that phrase. But now Elias heard it differently. It wasn't a playful suggestion. It was a shield, a promise, and perhaps a warning all at once. He set down his cup. Then, let's make tonight count. From somewhere deep in the city, another low rumble rolled through the air. Neither of them moved. They both knew the game had only just begun. The artificial night had settled over Virelli's prime, and the city's towers glowed with soft blue light. From the guest suite's balcony, Elias could see the energy lines that ran between the buildings like slow rivers of light. It looked peaceful, but he knew better now. Inside, Lyra moved silently around the room, checking every corner. She examined the walls, the balcony railing, even the seams of the furniture. She was searching for something. Listening devices? Elias guessed. Possibly, she said, her voice calm. If they can hear our plans, they can break them before we begin. Elias watched her work. She was precise, each movement careful, controlled. But there was something else in her expression. Determination, almost personal. You've done this before, Elias said. She glanced at him. I have kept others safe. Some lived, some did not. It wasn't meant to be dramatic. It was just fact. Elias respected that. When she finished her sweep, Lyra sat across from him. You should know, she began. I am not only an attunement companion. I serve as a field agent for the Virelian Security Network. I was assigned to you because there are whispers. Someone plans to end these talks before they start. That explains the message, Elias said. But it also means you've been keeping things from me. I keep only what must be kept, Lyra replied. You are the face of your people here. If you carry too much danger in your mind, it will show. Elias leaned forward. Then tell me this. Why do you insist on staying close to me? Really? She didn't hesitate. Because you are the target. The words were plain, but they landed like a stone in the air between them. Then we can't just wait for them to make the next move, Elias said. We should make one first. Lyra tilted her head slightly. And what move would that be? We make them think I'm vulnerable, Elias said. Draw them in, then follow them back to whoever is. Giving the orders. Lyra frowned. That is reckless. That's human, Elias corrected, a small smile tugging at his lips. Her eyes narrowed, but there was a spark there, too. Curiosity. And if it fails? Then at least we know who we're dealing with, Elias said. Right now, we're blind. She thought for a moment, then gave a slow nod. Very well. But if we do this, we do it on my terms. You will appear alone, but I will not be far. Elias agreed. They began working out the details. A walk through the industrial district where fewer security patrols moved and more shadows could hide in. The idea was simple. He would act distracted, unguarded. They would watch who came close. Before they could finalize the plan, Lyra's wrist device lit up. A tiny holographic display showed grainy images from a security drone. The footage made. Elias tense. That's, he began. Yes, Lyra said quietly. One of your own. The image was of a human man, dressed in dark clothing, moving quickly through one of the station's lower corridors. He had no visible ID, no diplomatic badge. But his features were unmistakable. Human. Elias studied the image. I don't recognize him. But if he's here without clearance, it means he's not part of my crew. Lyra's voice was steady. It also means this is not just a Virelian problem. Whoever he is, he could be working for another human faction. Elias didn't like the thought. Human politics were complicated enough without dragging another faction into alien negotiations. Lyra shut off the display. This changes things. If an outsider from your species is involved, they may know your methods. We will have to be creative. The next evening, the plan went into motion. The industrial district was a maze of tall, dark towers linked by narrow bridges. The air smelled faintly of heated metal, and the low hum of machinery filled the space. Cargo drones floated overhead, carrying supplies to and from the docking bays. Elias walked slowly along one of the main bridges, hands in his pockets, gaze fixed on the glow of the city in the distance. He looked relaxed, but his ears were tuned to every sound. He knew Lyra was nearby, hidden among the shadows above, watching. Halfway across the bridge, footsteps echoed behind him. He didn't turn. He kept walking, slowing his pace slightly. The footsteps grew closer. From the corner of his eye, Elias caught a flicker of movement, a shadow breaking from the wall. The figure moved fast, reaching for his arm. In an instant, Elias dropped low, twisting away. The attacker stumbled forward, and Lyra was there, dropping from above with silent precision. She struck the attacker's wrist, forcing him to drop a small device. It clattered across the bridge. The man was human. Elias stepped forward. "Who sent you?" The man didn't answer. He glanced at the device on the ground, but Lyra kicked it away. "You're not with my crew," Elias said. "Which means you're here for one reason." The man stayed silent, breathing hard. His eyes flicked between Elias and Lyra, calculating. Lyra spoke quietly. "We can take him to the Council's security division." "No," Elias said, surprising her. "If we do that, whoever he's working for will know we caught him. Better to follow him." Lyra hesitated, then stepped back. The man bolted, racing toward the far end of the bridge. Elias and Lyra followed, not close enough to be seen, but close enough not to lose him. The chase wound through the industrial district's dark alleys and service tunnels until the man slipped inside a small docking bay. From the shadows, Elias and Lyra watched as he boarded a sleek black shuttle. Through the open hatch, they saw two more figures waiting inside. Neither human, neither Varelian. "Mixed crew," Elias whispered. "Whoever's behind this isn't working alone." The shuttle's engines flared, and it lifted away into the night sky. Lyra turned to Elias. "Now we know there's more than one faction, and they're organized." Elias's jaw tightened, which means tomorrow's summit just became a lot more dangerous. They made their way back to the guest suite in silence. As they entered, Elias looked out over the city again. Somewhere, out there, enemies were planning their next move. Lyra stepped beside him. "I told you, until this danger passes. I stay." This time, Elias didn't argue. The following morning, Vareli's Prime shimmered under a pale lavender sky. Its towers reflected light like liquid glass, and transport ships glided silently between the high platforms. Elias knew the beauty was meant to inspire awe, but to him, it was a mask, hiding the shadows that had begun to gather in the city. Lyra was already awake, moving through the guest suite with precise steps. She checked the windows and adjusted the room's protective shields. Her silver eyes scanned the city below as though she could see every movement in the streets. "You've been awake a long time," Elias said, entering the room. His uniform was crisp, his face calm. But inside he was aware of every threat lurking beyond the suite walls. Lyra turned, her teal-blue skin glowing softly in the ambient light. "The night revealed too much. Some threats are human, some are not. The summit will be watched closely." Elias nodded. "Then we have to be careful and clever. That's human too, and maybe the edge we need." Lyra's faint smile acknowledged the compliment. "Human adaptability. Yes, that may be why you were chosen for this mission." They spent the morning reviewing the security footage, analyzing every movement of the previous night's attackers. The more they watched, the clearer. It became someone was orchestrating a coordinated plan to sabotage the summit. Mixed crews, human and alien, were moving across the station, but none had yet made a direct strike. "We will need to act before they do," Elias said. "But subtly. If we are too obvious, they will change their plans." Lyra's voice was calm but firm. "Agreed. And you will appear vulnerable as we practiced. Only I will be in the shadows." Elias felt the weight of the plan, but there was no hesitation. Humans had always faced impossible odds and survived. He had learned to trust his instincts, and now he would need them more than ever. By mid-afternoon, they moved to the industrial sector again. Elias walked along a long corridor connecting two docking bays. He carried a data pad, pretending to review schedules, while Lyra followed silently, hidden from view. The corridor was quiet, save for the low hum of machinery and the occasional footstep of a passing worker. Elias's heart rate remained steady, though he felt every detail, every flicker of light, every shadow that shifted along the walls. His eyes caught the movement of a figure at the far end of the corridor. The man was human, dressed in black, moving deliberately toward him. Elias slowed his pace, keeping his expression casual. The man paused, studying him, then continued. Elias knew the plan. Let the attacker think he had the advantage. From above, Lyra's eyes followed, invisible and ready. She calculated distances, timing, and angles. Her training was precise, but she relied on Elias's unpredictability, something her people could not fully replicate. The man reached for a device hidden under his coat. Elias dropped the data pad, letting it clatter loudly to the floor. The bob sound echoed through the corridor. Startled, the man froze, giving Elias the split second he needed. He grabbed the man's wrist, twisting him away from his intended target. Lyra appeared instantly, her movement fluid as water. With a swift motion, she knocked the device from his hand and pressed him against the wall. "Who sent you?" Elias demanded. The man's lips pressed tightly together. He did not answer. His eyes flicked toward the vents above, clearly seeking a way out. Lyra blocked the exit with a small, silent drone hovering in place. "You are not acting alone," Elias said. "I know there are more, and I will find them." The man finally hissed, "You don't understand. This isn't just Varelian politics. You're being used." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Used by whom?" The man made no answer. Before they could react, a loud alarm sounded throughout the docking bay. Lights flashed red. The man seized the moment, breaking free and running toward the main platform. Elias and Lyra gave chase, weaving through cargo containers and maintenance tunnels. Above, surveillance drones watched their movements, but Lyra skillfully disabled a few, ensuring they were not observed. The chase was dangerous. The corridors were narrow, filled with obstacles, and the man was fast. But Elias's human adaptability gave them the edge. He anticipated the man's route, predicting each turn, each shortcut, and each narrow path. Finally, the man reached the outer docking platform, preparing to board a small black shuttle. Elias and Lyra arrived simultaneously. Lyra's hands moved in precise patterns, releasing a low-frequency pulse that locked the shuttle's systems temporarily. The man cursed, glancing between them. "You cannot escape," Elias said calmly. "Not tonight." Lyra stepped beside him. "The summit is tomorrow. If the talks fail, peace fails. You will not succeed." The man hesitated, then bolted into a side exit. Elias considered giving chase, but realized it was a trap. Lyra placed a hand on his arm. "Do not follow blindly. That is human recklessness. Let us control the outcome." Elias nodded, understanding her caution. They returned to the suite, scanning the route for potential threats and reinforcing the protective fields. The night outside was still, but he knew danger was everywhere. The attackers would regroup, and their next move could be more direct. Sitting across from each other, Lyra spoke quietly. "Until the summit concludes, I stay. I protect. It is not personal, it is duty. Elias regarded her with a new respect. And I'll admit, it's reassuring. Not many allies would stay this close when everything could go wrong. She gave a small nod. It is not common even among my people, but sometimes circumstances demand it. He smiled faintly. Then, we are both unusual, humans and Varelians, working together. The words felt strange but true. They had formed a bond, born not of comfort but necessity. Trust was no longer optional, it was survival. Outside, the lavender light of the city began to dim as night approached. Elias and Lyra knew the stakes were higher than ever. The summit would not only test diplomacy, but also their ability to survive the shadows that moved unseen through the station. And one thing was certain. When darkness came, they would face it together. The night had fallen over Vareli's prime, and the city glowed with a soft, diffused light. From the guest suite balcony, Elias could see the transport ships moving like silver streams between the towers. The serenity of the view was deceptive. He knew that the danger waiting for the summit was growing closer with every passing hour. Lyra moved beside him, her teal-blue skin reflecting the faint city light. She had checked the room's defenses multiple times already. Her eyes were sharp, scanning every angle, every shadow. "We have little time," she said softly. "Tomorrow the summit begins. The attackers know the schedule. We must prepare." Elias nodded. He had spent the evening reviewing every scenario, every potential threat. They had traced the black shuttle from the previous night and identified several hidden docking bays that could serve as entry points for intruders. The Varelian Council's security was strong, but Elias knew human ingenuity would be the decisive factor. "We will need a distraction," he said. "Something bold enough to draw them out, but controlled enough to keep innocent bystanders safe." Lyra tilted her head. "You mean a human-style bluff? That is risky." "It's necessary," Elias replied. "We have to force their hand." They moved through the darkened corridors of the industrial district. Elias kept his posture casual, hands in pockets, pretending to be unaware of anything around him. Lyra followed silently, just out of sight, monitoring the shadows. Every now and then she would tap her wrist device to disable a surveillance drone or secure a passage. They reached the first docking bay, an enormous platform where cargo shuttles rested quietly. Elias stopped at the edge, his eyes scanning for any movement. From the shadows, a figure appeared, human, dressed in dark clothes, moving carefully toward him. Elias let the figure approach, maintaining a relaxed expression. As predicted, the man moved to a specific point, placing a small device on the floor. Elias bent down, pretending to adjust his uniform, and kicked the device into the corner. It emitted a faint beep. Lyra emerged silently from above, dropping to the platform without a sound. Together, they cornered the man, their presence hidden from the rest of the platform. "You are not working alone?" Elias said quietly, watching the man's reactions. "Who is directing you?" The man's eyes flickered between Elias and Lyra. He said nothing. Instead, he activated a small comm device on his wrist. The holographic display showed two more figures waiting at a hidden entrance. One human, one alien, the same mixed crew from the previous night. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "They plan to strike during the summit. Now we know the exact timeline." Elias nodded. "Then we act tonight. We control the situation before they do." Using the knowledge they had gathered, Elias and Lyra set a trap. They moved through maintenance corridors, choosing narrow passages and shadowed alcoves. Elias placed small, discrete devices that emitted low-frequency pulses, enough to disable communications temporarily, but not harm anyone. Lyra covered the exits and ensured that no one could approach unnoticed. When everything was in position, Elias activated the bluff. A series of holographic messages were broadcast on the station's open channels, announcing that a preliminary peace declaration had been signed early. The message was false, but it was believable enough to draw the attackers into action. From the shadows, they watched. Within minutes, figures appeared, moving quickly toward the summit chamber, believing the peace declaration would secure their objectives. The attackers were overconfident, thinking the humans had revealed themselves as vulnerable. Elias and Lyra followed silently, ready to strike. They moved like shadows themselves, invisible and precise. The attackers reached the entrance to the summit hall, where the council's security was waiting, unaware of the ambush prepared by Elias and Lyra. Suddenly, the attackers realized the hall was not empty. The human in charge of their operation tried to retreat, but Elias had anticipated the escape routes. Using a combination of clever positioning and quick thinking, he blocked the exit paths. Lyra disabled additional drones and surveillance devices, ensuring the attackers could not communicate with their allies. The confrontation was tense. Neither side made a sound. Every movement counted. Elias used his understanding of human behavior to predict the attackers' reactions. Lyra's Varelian training allowed her to strike with perfect timing. Together, they moved as one, human ingenuity and alien precision combined. The attackers realized they were trapped. Elias stepped forward, his posture calm, his eyes unwavering. "The summit begins tomorrow. If you wish to stop it, you will have to go through us." The human leader hesitated. He could see Lyra beside Elias, her stance ready and confident. He realized that his team had underestimated the humans and the companions assigned to them. With no options left, the attackers surrendered quietly, knowing that any aggressive move would fail. With the immediate threat neutralized, Elias and Lyra returned to the guest suite. They debriefed, noting every movement and device used, ensuring nothing could be overlooked before the summit. The city outside glimmered peacefully, as if unaware of the night's events. Lyra looked at Elias. "The night is almost over. Tomorrow, you will face the council. You are ready." Elias allowed himself a faint smile. "Not without your help. I do not think I could have managed this without you." She inclined her head. "That is the purpose of staying the night, to ensure you are safe, prepared, and clear-headed. Duty, Captain Ward. Nothing more." Elias studied her. "I understand, and I am grateful." Outside, the city lights reflected in the calm waters of the canals. The night was quiet again, but Elias knew that tomorrow would test not only diplomacy, but courage, strategy, and human ingenuity. The summit would be the ultimate challenge. For now, though, the danger was contained. And for the first time since arriving, Elias felt a sense of controlled calm. He had survived the night, and with Lyra by his side, he knew the summit could succeed. And one thing was certain: human adaptability and courage, combined with Lyra's precision and loyalty, had turned the tide. Peace was still fragile, but the humans had proven themselves capable, daring, and resilient. The night outside continued, but inside, preparation and trust reigned. Together, Elias and Lyra had ensured that the next day would not be dictated by shadows, but by their own choices. The summit chamber of Vareli's Prime gleamed under soft ambient light. The hall was vast, circular, and lined with tall crystal pillars that reflected every movement. The human and Varelian delegations filled the room, their faces calm but alert. Elias Ward stepped forward, his uniform crisp, his expression composed. Beside him, Lyra remained in the shadows, her eyes scanning for any sign of danger. The events of the past nights weighed on him, but he felt prepared. He had survived threats that had tested both human ingenuity and instinct, and tonight, he would show that humans could rise to the challenges of diplomacy and danger alike. As the council began to speak, Elias kept his attention on the crowd, noticing subtle shifts in posture and expression. A slight movement in the upper gallery caught his eye, someone trying to approach undetected. He nudged Lyra with a silent gesture. She stepped forward, disappearing into the crowd with quiet precision. Elias continued with the opening remarks, his voice calm and measured. Today, we gather not as separate peoples, but as allies in pursuit of mutual growth and security. Our goal is peace, understanding, and the prosperity of our civilizations. The Varelian Council murmured in approval. Yet Elias knew that the unseen adversaries were still present. They had not given up, and their motives were clear. Someone wanted the summit to fail. That much was certain. Suddenly, the chamber's lighting flickered. Small drones, previously hidden in the ceiling, descended, carrying devices designed to disrupt the summit. Instinctively, Elias ducked slightly, signaling Lyra. She had anticipated this. With swift, fluid motion, she disabled several drones. Mid-air, her hands moving with precise timing that blurred as they intercepted each threat. Elias reacted too. Using his knowledge of human adaptability, he moved strategically, knocking over a small console to block another drone's path. The attackers had assumed the humans would panic. Instead, Elias's calm and quick thinking disrupted their plan completely. The attackers realized too late that they had been outmaneuvered. Lyra's calculated strikes, combined with Elias's improvisation, left the intruders trapped near the side entrances of the hall. Security drones, now restored, moved in to secure the area. The summit continued uninterrupted. Elias exhaled quietly, feeling the tension ease slightly. He turned to Lyra, who had returned to her position beside him, still alert. "You predicted every move," he said softly. "I couldn't have done this alone." Lyra shook her head. "It was not just prediction, it was preparation, observation, and trust. You adapted quickly. That is why we succeeded." Elias smiled faintly. "Then humans still have something to offer, even among the stars." Her eyes glimmered with approval. "Yes, and your people will be remembered here not only for diplomacy, but for courage and quick thinking." The council resumed the formal proceedings. Elias and Lyra remained vigilant, yet the immediate threat had been neutralized. The summit progressed, with discussions of trade, defense, and cultural exchange unfolding smoothly. Delegates spoke. Treaties were drafted, and for the first time in weeks, Elias allowed himself to believe that peace was truly possible. By mid-afternoon, the formal agreements were ready to be signed. Elias approached the main table, documents in hand. The Varelian Council watched closely, their expressions revealing cautious optimism. Lyra stayed at his side, silent but supportive. He signed the first document, the trade agreement, then gestured for the Varelian leader to follow. The alien signed in turn, the crystal pen scratching lightly on the paper. Next came the defense pact. Elias glanced around, noting the attentive faces of delegates from other species observing the ceremony. Every detail mattered. Every gesture was scrutinized. As the final signature was placed, a wave of relief swept through the room. The summit had succeeded. Peace, for now, had been secured. Elias allowed himself a small smile, aware that it was human resilience, combined. With careful planning, that had saved the day. After the formalities, Elias and Lyra stepped onto the balcony overlooking the city. The towers reflected the late afternoon sun, their surfaces smooth and gleaming. The air carried the faint scent of metallic stone and soft spice. For a moment, the danger felt distant, as if it had been a bad dream. Lyra turned to him. "The night is over. You no longer need me to stay awake beside you." Elias studied her, realizing how much her presence had meant. "Maybe not for safety, but allies like you, we keep close." She inclined her head, a small smile gracing her lips. "I will return to my duties. But your people have earned my respect, Captain Ward. You did not falter under pressure. That is rare." Elias nodded. "And you did not falter either. I'll remember that." Outside, the city began to glow with the colors of early evening. Transport ships moved gracefully, unaware that they had been the silent backdrop to a delicate dance of trust, strategy, and courage. Inside the city, humans and Varelians alike would remember the events as a turning point, the moment when two species had faced danger together and emerged stronger. Later, as Elias prepared to return to the Endeavor, he reflected on the past. Nights. The threats, the strategies, and the cooperation with Lyra had shown him that humans were not just diplomats. They were adaptable, courageous, and capable of remarkable ingenuity. That adaptability had made the difference. Lyra appeared beside him one last time. "Captain," she said, "you have proven that humans can rise to challenges beyond their own worlds. That is why I stayed the night." Elias smiled. "And I am grateful. You have not just been a guide, but a true partner." They shook hands, and in that gesture, both understood the unspoken truth. Bonds formed in moments of danger and trust often last far longer than words can express. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Elias boarded the Endeavor. Lyra watched, him go, the city reflecting her soft teal-blue glow. Elias looked back once, knowing that the nights of vigilance and preparation had been worth it. Humanity had not only survived, but had shown that courage, adaptability, and clear thinking could triumph even in the face of interstellar threats. The summit would be remembered, the peace treaty signed, and humans would earn lasting respect among the stars. But more than that, Elias knew one thing: trust and cooperation, the human heart combined with alien wisdom, could achieve wonders. And sometimes, staying the night made all the difference. The city lights flickered gently in the night, the towers standing tall and peaceful. The long night of vigilance had ended. And for the first time, Captain Elias Ward allowed himself to rest, knowing that he, his people, and his companion had faced the shadows and prevailed.